What kind of an exhaustive research did you go through, and for how long?
Well, the long was, it's kind of snowballed. There was, toward the end, these things went over a long period of time, and I would find new things, or one thing would add on to another. It took 3 or 4 years, really good, solid years, to try to decipher what it was I was really coming up with and what I was thinking. But at the same time, I read a book by Grant Palmer called Insider's View of Mormon Origins. At the same time, Doris Hanson's show, Polygamy, What Love Is This, was on the air. Sean McCraney's show, Heart of the Matter, was on. And they were all saying things that initially I was really upset about, because they were talking about Jesus that I'd never known before, or at least challenging this Jesus that I thought I knew. And they were also explaining how the Book of Mormon was a problem with translation and different errors, but then I had already seen some of these things, and so I was kind of getting a confirmation that some of the things I had uncovered, and especially Grant Palmer's book, that identified some of these other specific things about the Book of Abraham.
And Grant Palmer was a historian,
he was an
wasn't
institute,
he?
yeah, historian and institute director and teacher in the church education system. So he was very trustworthy, and I read that on the back of his book, and I thought, well, here's somebody that I can trust, because all of this information so far I'd been looking at was Mormon. It was LDS material.
Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't, I mean, the Lectures of Faith and the Pearl of Great Price and all this stuff was just our material.
Well, I remember you during that 3 or 4 year period.
Yeah.
And you seemed different.
Well, I got more and more miserable.
You did, and it was obvious that you got more and more miserable.
Yeah.
We were all kind of wondering what was wrong with Earl.
Well, you know, you've got to think in the terms of I had been a faithful, honorable Latter-day Saint my whole life. I'd kept all the commandments. I mean, I was a very proud Mormon.
You were. We
all
all were.
I was very judgmental, and of people that weren't keeping the Sabbath day holy. I will admit that I probably broke the Sabbath day on occasion. I did travel a lot, and on Sundays but you know, small things like that, and then went to Wendover and spent a few quarters and stuff, that kind of stuff. But you know, nothing I could never not answer, and always had a temple recommend. And anyway, so my earth was being shattered here, because here my foundation, as the church always says, the foundation is the first vision, Joseph Smith as a prophet, first vision, and the Book of Mormon. And my basic foundation was being challenged, because I could see errors in the Book of Mormon, which I thought was translated word for word by the power of God. And why would God need to have his words edited or changed? And then the foundation of Joseph Smith's first vision. I mean, that was just fundamental to my testimony. So then when I started learning these things, and then more and more on fast and testimony meetings and other people giving talks, and they'd say, I know that Joseph Smith's a prophet, and I know the Book of Mormon's true, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know if you really do know that, because I don't think you know what I know. And I know that this happened, and Joseph Smith, yeah, he says he saw God and the Father and the Son in 1820, but that's not what the books kind of tell me. I'm putting 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 together here and coming up with some number, and that's not what I'm reading here. So then add on to that. Then I started learning more about polygamy and masonry in the temple and priesthood coming. Why would John the Baptist come and bring the Levitical priesthood to Joseph Smith, who isn't from the tribe of Levi?
And we understand in the Bible you have to be
from the tribe of Levi. Yeah, it's funny too, in section 84 of the Doctrine and Covenants, it also says that no man can see God without the priesthood. And of course, Joseph Smith doesn't even claim to get the priesthood until 1829. So again, he couldn't have had an 1820 experience of seeing God. By the way, that's D&C 8422, if anybody wants to look that up. But
you've got a good memory.
I've looked it up before, but